We often hear about people, dedicating their lives to change, social, political change. And, well, it's rarely easy, is it?
No, not at all.
And right now, someone who's really been a fixture in counterculture activism for decades, Dana Beal. He's facing some, well, pretty serious legal troubles.
That's right. And Dana Beal's story, it really gives you a window into some huge social movements over the last, 50, 60 years?
Yeah, easily.
His early stuff, like being at the March on Washington back in '63, that kind of set the tone for his whole life, really.
Hmm.
It's interesting. Even back in 1971, the New York Times called him out as a major thinker in the underground youth movement.
Okay, let's dig into that a bit, those early days, because he wasn't just there in that movement, was he? He was articulating its ideas.
Exactly. He was writing things like Right on Culture Freaks and Weather Yippie.
Ah, yeah, I remember those titles.
They really, they captured something about that time. Got passed around a lot in the alternative press.
And he was involved in Rock Against Racism, too, wasn't he? Bringing that over here.
Yeah, help bring it to American audiences. What's really key about his early work is how he kind of gave a theoretical backbone to that whole counterculture scene.
Okay.
People like Abby Hoffman, Jerry Rubin, the big names back then.
Sure. The Yippies.
Right. They actually pointed to Beal's writing as influencing the movement's core ideas, its direction.
And that activism just kept going. I mean, 1999, he co-founds the Global Million Marijuana March, the GMM or MM.
Which is massive now, right?
Totally. It's a worldwide thing every year. It really shows how central he's been to, well, marijuana law reform for such a long time.
Yeah, they even called him the Lenin of the marijuana movement.
Wow. That's quite a title.
It speaks to his long game, the organizing. Decades of it, putting together demonstrations, even that smoke-in outside the Democratic Convention in '72.
Right, I remember hearing about that one.
His commitment to cannabis, it goes beyond just personal freedom. He connects it to bigger things, social justice, health. And that consistent focus year after year, it's really cemented him as a major player in that global push for reform.
But it's not just cannabis, is it? He's also been, for years, a really strong voice for Ibogaine.
Yeah, absolutely. For its therapeutic potential, especially with addiction.
His whole thing is that addiction is a disease, right? A medical condition. And Ibogaine can treat it.
Yeah, and what's interesting about Beal is he's always looking for solutions, often, outside the mainstream box. His involvement in all those Ibogaine forums, Boston, New Zealand, the Netherlands, Vienna, it shows how serious he is about exploring these alternative treatments.
Exactly. He's putting in the work, organizing, participating, trying to get the word out about Ibogaine's potential. His website, Cures Not Wars, kind of sums it up, doesn't it?
It really does. Connects the dots between ending the drug war and finding actual treatments.
And he's also been there for medical marijuana patients, too. Served on the honorary board for the New York State Committee to legalize marijuana.
Right, and even started a patients' rights group in NYC, advocating for medical co-ops.
So it's hands-on stuff.
Definitely not just theory for him. I mean, taking Ibogaine to Ukraine in 2023.
Yeah, tell us about that.
Well, the idea was to look into using it for war veterans dealing with PTSD. It just shows his commitment.
Okay.
Seeing if this therapy could work even in really tough, high-stakes situations.
Which brings us to what he's doing now, right? With his company, IboGrow.
Yeah, focusing on providing processed Ibogaine for therapeutic use.
Yeah.
He's actually working with Dhoruba Benoit.
Oh, really? The former Black Panther?
Yeah, his longtime friend. They've got a facility in Ghana, sourcing it from there. They both really believe in Ibogaine's potential.
Wow. That connection goes way back, I imagine.
It does. And Benoit's own experiences, seeing the effects of the drug war firsthand, adds another layer to why they're so committed to this work with Ibogaine.
Now, you can probably guess someone challenging the system like this for so long. Well, he's faced legal issues.
Oh, yeah. Arrests over the years. Illinois, Nebraska, Wisconsin.
California, Oregon, too, right? Mostly marijuana related.
Mostly, yeah. It shows that constant friction between his activism and the drug laws as they stand.
Some cases were minor, some dropped, but others. Wisconsin in 2011, that was serious, wasn't it?
It was. Resulted in prison time. He even had a heart attack while inside, which led to a resentencing. So, yeah, real consequences.
And that leads us right up to now, this latest arrest in Idaho back in January.
Right. Gooding County. The charges are cannabis trafficking and not having an Idaho cannabis tax stamp.
Which sounds obscure, but I guess it's a charge they can levy. And the bail was huge, right?
$250,000,
Yeah.
which thankfully was posted by a couple of fellow activists, so he's out now.
But still facing the charges.
Yes, he's free on bail but isn't allowed to leave the U.S.
And what's his plan?
Well, he said he's planning a vigorous court defense. And interestingly, he wants to keep working to legalize cannabis, even in Idaho, and keep promoting ibogaine.
Still fighting, even now.
Yep. Though he has apparently pledged this will be his last cannabis arrest.
Well, fighting charges like these, that costs money. A lot of money.
Exactly. Which is why Paul Stanford set up a GoFundMe campaign to help Dana cover those court costs.
Okay, so that's something people can actually do if they want to support him through this.
Precisely. It's a direct way to help with the legal defense fund. And it shows, the community that's kind of rallied around him over all these years. His work has touched a lot of people.
It really does highlight how dedicated he is, doesn't it? Despite his age, his health issues, he's still focused on legalizing cannabis and getting ibogaine recognized.
Absolutely. He sees them as connected, potentially working together. And he gets pretty frustrated, you can tell, with the U.S. government dragging its feet on researching ibogaine.
Especially when other places, like you mentioned, Ukraine, are looking into it for things like addiction and PTSD.
Right, he calls himself a courier.
A courier? What does he mean by that?
I think it speaks to how he sees his role. Like, facilitating access to these substances he genuinely believes can help people, driven by that belief and, well, a real dissatisfaction with the current rules.
That makes sense. And didn't he recently get some recognition from the NYC mayor?
Yeah, Mayor Eric Adams gave an award to Dana and the Yippies, acknowledging their historical impact. Kind of brings things full circle in a way.
So let's pull this together then. We've got Dana Beal, this really significant figure from the counterculture activist for decades, dedicated his life to drug policy reform, cannabis, ibogaine.
And now he's facing these serious charges in Idaho, and there's this GoFundMe effort to help him fight them while he keeps pushing his causes.
Yeah, and cases like his, they really remind you of the personal cost involved in pushing for change, People like Dana Beal, they take big risks.
Absolutely. And these struggles aren't just personal. They impact the wider movements they're part of.
So this GoFundMe campaign, it's there specifically to help with his legal bills for this Idaho case. It's a concrete way for people, if they feel moved by his story and his lifelong work, to offer some support.
Right.
We'll make sure the link is available for anyone interested. It's gofundme.com/FTANA-Idaho bail and trial expenses. Even small amounts can add up, I imagine, when facing these kinds of legal costs.
Definitely. It really poses a question, doesn't it? What's the role of that kind of individual support in actually enabling people who challenge the status quo to keep doing their work?
That's a great question to end on. How does individual action, chipping in, how does that connect to these bigger movements for legal and social change? Something definitely worth thinking about.